Habibis, welcome. It's another Habibi Power Hour. I'm Siraj Hashmi.
Marhaba. And I am Mujahed Kobbe. Jay,
Welcome.
Bob, friends.
How's your week been, Jay?
It's been as crazy as it's been for everybody else. I'm kidding. My week has actually just been pretty normal. Just normal day commuting. And just
Wow. How dare you compare
like
your plight. Compare your plight to everyone else who's going through a hard time.
Right. Like I don't mean it in that way, but people who are having a hard time. It's just,
who are you? Who do you think you are?
life.
Sean Hannity? I mean, Jesus. That, by the way, that might have been the most awkward thing I've ever heard on TV. Him trying to compare George Floyd, his death at the hands of a police officer or at the knees of a police officer, to how Donald Trump has suffered from the federal law enforcement of the FBI and the DOJ. Just next level dumb.
It really is. It's not just next level dumb. It's next level. Like, you don't see people get on their knees and suck dick that often on national television like Hannity does for Trump. And to do something like that in that way is just, it's disgusting. There's no real excuse for it. Yeah. It's just Hannity is honestly, he needs to go, I think. If anybody wants to have anything, the Hannitys, the Rush Limbaughs, the Glenn Becks, like all of these people, they're past their time and they think they need to keep on doing what made them, famous or whatever, is to be out as outrageous as possible and then pretend like it's some sound argument and then shout, debate me on stupid
debate me, coward.
Debate me, coward. Tell me how this isn't different than the FBI trying to pin this on Trump.
Yeah. What are you drinking tonight?
Just the rest of my WR Woodford
I'm
Reserve.
Drinking a nice, refreshing Diet Sunkist, like a plebe.
I think you always drink
bitch, if you will.
Basic
Dude, orange soda.
At least it's not a white. It's not a White Claw.
Well, look in the mirror, Jay. All right. Well, now that we've gotten the pleasantries and the formalities out of the way, go fuck yourself, Jay.
Habibi.
Okay. Habibi, weekly jihad. Let's get right into it. First of all, New York Times is having a very weird week, because in the midst of what is considered probably the greatest period of social unrest in recent memory, they have a little bit of social unrest on their own. And what's strange about all of this, it all started because Tom Cotton published an op-ed saying to send in the troops. And we talked about it briefly last week, but since then, everything sort of went to shit. And the staff basically had this little mini revolt. There was somewhat of a civil war in the New York Times newsroom, and their top opinion editor, James Bennett, ended up resigning. And here's the funniest part about all of this. Today, Tom Cotton bought up an anti-Joe Biden ad to put in the New York Times on their website with the money that he raised specifically after he published that op-ed in the New York Times. I mean, talk about your all-time troll right there. Right. I mean, that's some strong trolling right there.
Absolutely. And he was having such a great time with it as well. Like every hour he would repost the article out after the whole thing about people going into turmoil in the newsroom. And it's funny how they're trying to oust as many people who think differently and who's causing them harm
Mhm.
It's amazing how they are using the campus tactics of safe spaces and speech is violence and all that kind of stuff, and wanting to claim that these ideas are making people feel unsafe in the workplace. And that's how they spearheaded it. Any sane person, and I'm pretty sure half of the people who were saying that this is going to kill the black journalists or make the black journalists feel unsafe in the New York Times, didn't read the op-ed, because he makes a very clear distinction. He makes it he makes it a point to make a distinction between protesters, rioters, and he's even stating how beautiful it is to have peaceful protesting and stuff.
Mhm.
And
Even the Slate writer Will Soliton, he had been very outspoken on this particular subject, and I mean, he's not a guy who's very much right of center at all. I mean, he writes for Slate.
right, he's not
He
the
was
type of guy
he
who's
was
gonna
like
ever
he
defend
was like
Tom Cotton.
Cotton made this clear distinction that he's not talking about peaceful protesters. He's talking about rioters. I did read Ben Smith's piece in the New York Times, sort of recapping everything that happened, not only in the New York Times but also the Washington Post, and sort of the old guard, the old white liberal neoliberal guard, and the struggles they've had to sort of maintain, younger newsrooms with more progressive and liberal people of color working as reporters on specific beats, like, say, racism, race relations, criminal justice, police brutality, and police reform. They use the example of Wesley Lowery from the Washington Post and him butting heads with the executive editor, Martin Barron. And what's interesting about that is they kind of use that as a segue into talking about the Tom Cotton debacle at the New York Times, because the way that they at least framed this particular column, or at least Ben Smith framed this, was that even amidst peaceful protesters in Ferguson, which in 2014, I don't know if you recall, it was sort of a mixed bag, because obviously there were peaceful protesters, and then there were people who were rioting, who were looting businesses and setting fire to them. And there wasn't really an Antifa at that time. It was sort of like just nameless and faceless hooligans. Anybody who wanted to loot a business or say set fire to an auto zone, they could certainly do that. But interestingly enough, this particular piece sort of delves into how even black journalists who are covering the Ferguson beat were treated on the same level as a lot of these protesters, in which cops would basically, draw guns on them, shoot rubber bullets at them, shoot tear gas at them. And so, like, I understand that concern. I understand that, black journalists, people of color who are covering these particular stories could very well be made targets of by, say, riot police or any law enforcement present. I get that. I do think that this particular op-ed from Tom Cotton got the reaction was a little bit overblown, because I think people only read the headline and didn't read the rest of his column. I mean, you could, if you read his column, that particular distinction that Cotton makes is at the end of the article. Think of the percentage of people who read the full article. They almost never make it to the bottom. Like, if he put that at the top or as like a subheader, maybe people would be like, oh, okay, it's not that big of a deal. But like, Cotton raised a ton of money. He's up for re-election this year, and he does not even have a Democratic opponent. So he's basically running ads in places like the New York Times against Joe Biden and trying to help President Trump win re-election. I mean, if you think about it, that's like the ultimate, shoot yourself in the foot moment right there, for the New York Times, at least.
Well, absolutely. I think so. And I think to your point is, people did not read the article at all, and they used this as an excuse to spearhead this revolution that they want to make in newsrooms and stuff. And this revolution that they want is one track thought. They want one type of thought. They don't want anything diverging from what it is that they think is a right thing. Wrong thing has to go. And you see a lot of people who were making fun of people talking about how this campus culture of coddling and of, wanting to get rid of speech and all this kind of stuff is going to come into the real world. One big one that you would see comment on that was Matt from Vox, one of the co-founders. He tweeted out that he after seeing all this debacle, he was completely wrong, and he has to rethink his views on what it is about campus culture and how that came into their newsrooms right now, because nobody's safe. No one is safe, and Matt is white as fuck. So if he's going to think anything wrong, he's going to have somebody come after him, and it's easy for them to do that.
It's that perfect clickhole meme where like the heartbreaking. The worst person just made a great point.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly how I felt when that happened. I was like, what is going on here? How's this happening? Another one, I forget his last name. His name is Zaid something. I forget his name.
Jelani?
I think Jelani. He's to the left, but there's a lot of things.
He's very much a Bernie bro.
Also, like, whoa, let's calm down a little bit here and be reasonable about how we're coming at this. Because they've weaponized cancel culture really well compared to anybody else that's going to go against it. Anyone who has any kind of wrong think, if you wore a mustache in your second grade Halloween costume, you might get canceled. It's that easy.
Yeah, it's wild. We're gonna get into more of that in a little bit because there's a lot of crazy shit going on. But in the midst of this New York Times revolt, the main story that has been sort of bubbling to the surface amidst the George Floyd protests and a lot of riots and we'll get into the Seattle Autonomous Region or zone, if you will. Is that as these protests have continued for more police accountability, that phrase, defund the police, has been one of constant debate, because what the fuck does that even mean? Were you going to strip all their funding away? Are you going to completely abolish police, that we live in a lawless society? Do we need Sharia? Do we need Sharia to replace it? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala becomes the ultimate judge. It's just one of those things. It's just one of those things where, like, you got to be realistic here. What are you actually looking for? And so this, like, defund the police has become this, like, loose term where there's no actual meaning and everybody has a different interpretation of it. And it's all become ridiculous at this point. So
no, 100%. It really is. And I love how you have journalists like Yamchi. Is her name Yamchi? How do you say her name? Yamchi. It's Yamchi. It doesn't matter anymore. It's Yamchi. It's the DC press.
Do you want me to tell you the correct way to say it?
No, I don't give a shit. She just now started coming out with her memoir. And the funny thing is like these are not journalists. This is not what journalism is, because she would write something and then she's like, context, this is what they mean by when they say defund the police. And then you have the Minneapolis mayor sitting out there saying, we're not going to defund the police, but we're going to, restructure stuff. And then the Black Lives Matter guy is like, no, fuck you, get the fuck out of here. We want zero money going to the police. I don't give a shit what you're saying.
Oh my God.
And then you have John Oliver coming out and having a whole segment on what defund the police means and shit. And words don't have any meaning anymore. It's like, it's not the word itself. Actually, what it really means is this whole story of Pretzel logic and all this kind of shit going into it and all this stuff, just so they can try and be like, no, we're not as crazy as we actually say we are.
It's amazing. So first of all, it's pronounced Yamish.
I was close.
Oh my god.
I'm only good with Arab names.
That's it's pretty good. I appreciate the mispronunciation. That is the best one since Kylie McAnal. Anyways,
the stream's still young. The stream's still young.
The
early.
Habibi Power Hour is still early. I mean, it's a lot, but yeah, I agree. There have been a lot of. Just a side note, obviously, about all the journalists who are now like turning into sort of personalities of their own. All of that, praise and appreciation that goes to your head, and I think it's incredibly important to make sure you look yourself in the mirror and always tell yourself every morning, you ain't shit. That is the only way. That is the only way people can remain humble and not let that ego burst through the entire fucking house like it's a IED. Anyways,
right. Acosta, like a Jim Acosta, and most of them are really. Much. It is, and a lot of the DC journalists, they take it on themselves to pretend like there's some heroes against this administration now. Like they are the ones who are saving all of the American people, coming out and giving them the truth and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, you know what? People are a lot smarter than you give them credit for. They don't need you to coddle them and then come out and try to give them a different story and a different narrative than what is really out there. They can understand it and they can come up with the way to interpret the information themselves. You don't need to come out here and tell us what your interpretation is. That's not your job. You're not an opinion journalist either.
Yeah. Like I make it very clear. I mean, I am a commentary writer and video editor. And I never, ever claim to be like a straight news reporter. So if I, like me doing this, like, yeah, I'm trying to make money. Like I'm trying to build a brand. I don't give a fuck. I mean, like I'm seriously trying. I mean, like that. There's not many avenues that a lot of these reporters can take. I mean, it's not like a well-paid. It's not like a well-paid industry. I don't. In many ways, I don't blame them for going down this route because it's such a poorly paid industry, and that the only way to really promote yourself is by, say, becoming a resistance journalist and, basically being adversarial with, say, President Trump or any of his cabinet members and trying to make a moment for yourself. I mean, like at the end of the day, it sort of waters down the value of actual journalism and reporting. But that's, it's a dying industry and there is no, I guess there's not going to be much that will save it unless the journalists decide they want to save it themselves. So, but getting back to this idea about defunding the police, there's so many things that can be addressed when it comes to police reform. First two things that have come to mind are ending qualified immunity, which for those who are not aware is basically the concept that you as a police officer or a federal law enforcement officer aren't held liable personally for, say, the damages that you cause while trying to perform your job. So if it's in the line of duty, say like you break a suspect's arm while trying to arrest them and put handcuffs on them, you are not held personally responsible for breaking that person's arm while trying to arrest them, thinking that they are, say, a suspect of under investigation of a particular crime. That has like stretched way, it's had so much different interpretations under the law in which officers feel like they can do whatever they want with impunity. And so you have cases like we're seeing in the last decade, and certainly over the last several decades, of police officers, say, beating the shit out of suspects or beating the shit out of witnesses, and wrongfully arresting people, stealing from them. I mean, you name it. A lot of different things. Killing them, of course, that's obviously been the worst thing that you could do.
Right. And also framing them and implanting evidence and stuff like that. Like it's really horrible being able to see some of the things that they get away with and they actually do. And what people need to understand is putting in reforms and putting in these things, it's not going to make the jobs of the good ones harder. It's going to make the jobs of the bad ones harder, and it's also going to weed them out. It's going to get them out of the police.
But you also don't get police accountability when you have police unions as strong as they are. So, for those who aren't aware, if you have police unions essentially help the interests of the officers who get in trouble. Of course, that's not everything that they do. But one of the main things that they do is they help the chances of police officers who are, say, suspended or terminated or disciplined, essentially have reduced punishment. And if you look at places like San Antonio, Texas, 2/3 of the police officers that have been fired have been actually reinstated. And there is a particular cop in Florida. His name is Sergeant German Bosk. Yes, the first name is German. He has been fired.
Last name is Bosk.
Bosk. He has been fired by his police department 6 times, and he is still on the job now. And he was arrested 3 times. And I've looked at the statistics on him. He has been investigated by Internal Affairs 40 times, 40 times, 16 of which were for battery of a suspect or allegations of battery of a suspect. So you look at a guy like German Bosk and you think this is the ticking time bomb. If this guy, God forbid, say shoots and kills an unarmed man or woman, and that person happens to be a person of color, specifically black, think of the rap sheet that's going to come out on him immediately, and people wondering how the fuck did this guy continue to keep his job. It's basically a disaster waiting to happen. And you could look at, say, even more social unrest should something like that happen in the future.
Right. And the funny thing is I don't know if it's been done before, but certainly with George Floyd, it's become more known, is the rap sheet of the officer who killed him, of how he's been, written up 20 odd sometimes, and every one of them has been closed and none of them has been disclosed, and all of these different kind of things that come out. It goes to question, what else can we find out about the other cops that have committed these type of crimes as well, that have killed these other people that gotten away with it and gotten away with other bad behavior. I like to go back to what, like you said last week and this week, what Chris Rock said is, like, you can't have bad apples who are doctors or who are pilots or who are bus drivers, because if they're not doing their job right, a lot of people are going to die. And it's the same thing with police officers. You need to make sure you're having the ones. I mean, in some states, you need more training to become a barber to cut fucking hair than you do to hold a gun and arrest people. And I don't know how, as a society, as a free society, we're allowing people to have this much power over you, especially government.
Yeah. And I think right now, I'm not seeing a whole lot of more trolls in the comments this time around.
Oh yeah, my people.
So, I love your people, our people. Let's be real, our people. One thing that's been weird, it was reported today or in the last day that coronavirus hospitalizations have spiked in 9 states since Memorial Day weekend. None of which are Florida and Georgia, by the way. We got Texas.
Oh, really? Well, because everybody is already dead in Florida and Georgia. There's nobody left to get into the hospital. Everybody's dead.
Everyone is dead. You have Texas, North and South Carolina, California, Oregon, Arkansas, Mississippi, Utah, and Arizona. So that is just since Memorial Day weekend, and obviously not a great sign.
No,
I'm worried that and there was another story this week that had to like quickly be clarified because the WHO, the World Health Organization, they were like, yeah, it's very rare for asymptomatic carriers of coronavirus to transmit it to any other human. And then like a day later, they're like, whoa, we didn't actually mean that. That we had to like issue a correction to the correction, and now it just looks like a giant episode of Veep or In the Loop where everyone's an idiot and doesn't know what they're doing. And I mean, I'm of the belief that obviously the WHO never knew what they were doing, but it's even I think for people who were believers in the WHO, it probably shakes their confidence in the organization a little bit.
No, I believe it would. And the thing we're seeing a lot of too is the tone in how journalists were so concerned about grouping together, about you going to work, or about you even taking your kid out to the park was going to kill a million grandmothers and stuff. And then come to see the protests and the rioting and stuff, they cheer it on. They're like, keep on going and all this kind of stuff because they want to say like this is for a better cause. This is for it's worth the sacrifices and stuff. But so putting food on somebody's table wasn't worth the sacrifices. Doing these different things, and it's going to be really interesting to see what they're going to blame this on because know they're not going to blame it on the protests. I mean, they were having live protests and not mentioning the coronavirus whatsoever. Then Trump says he's going to start having rallies. And then they're like, amid a pandemic, there's going to be rallies. You weren't giving a shit about it. That
was almost all 100% NPR doing that shit too. And it's just
right.
So
I don't understand how we pay for these places. NPR, PBS, like it's a waste.
It's such a waste. All right, question for you, Jay. How many moms has Jay given the Rona to since Memorial Day, though?
Just your mom, Matt, and Bruce's. That's it. Honestly, I'm trying to stay loyal. I'm going for 4, but right now it's just those 2.
Who are the other 2?
No, it's just those 2. It's just Bruce's mom and Matt's mom. I'm going for another 2, but I like.
Yeah, no, I'm saying who are the other 2 that you're trying to go for?
Well, one of them is Brian Stelter's mom, and we'll see how that goes. I mean, I haven't fucked a hippo before, but I don't have that much of standards, really. So it doesn't.
This is gonna get us both canceled for the most part.
Man.
Oh man. Okay. Oh wow. So time to drag Yashad, mainly so I can hear Jay pronounce this particular name. Jay, how do you pronounce that name?
Allison Ronan.
Oh, come on, man. You could do better.
Well, it's because half her name is Ali, so it makes it easier.
Ali. You should have said Alison.
Alison. It's that. Yeah, I mean, this all comes to the point of cancel culture and weaponizing cancel culture as well, because we all know Allison said something against Chrissy and stuff, and then this whole thing became more whatever. And to be honest, like Allison was in the wrong for sure, and she should have came out and they should have squashed it and all that kind of stuff for sure. But I mean, sometimes people just want to keep it going, and then doing something like that happened 16 years ago, where she was wearing something that looked like Amy Winehouse or looked like a chola or whatever. It's not something that you want to keep on going after, especially if you're somebody who says cancel culture isn't real. If you're somebody who doesn't believe in it, then why even bring it up? If it's something they did when they were 20 years old or 16 years old or 12 years old or whatever, it's not healthy. And I don't think it's healthy in one bit. And then you go and you get to see Chrissy, who is half Thai, half white Norwegian, wearing Native American outfit? Where's the outrage
on the red
there?
carpet? Wasn't it
On
on
the red
the red
carpet.
carpet?
No outrage there. Why is that? Why? Why is that? Why do some people get the pass and some people don't?
It's because she has politics that most of the people on Twitter like. So
well, it's most of the people who are the loudest and who like to whine about something. That's the thing. If you're loud and you're whining and you're saying this is wrong and you're saying this is racist and sexist and like as many fucking outrageous, wrong, you're the worst human being type of thing you can, other people are going to start getting worried about it because nobody wants to walk around being considered a bad person. Right. They don't want that on them. So they want to do what it is that they can do in order to make them look like a good person. Yeah. The way I do that is like, for example, if I say I'm against, single payer healthcare, and they're like, "Oh, you want kids to die? Yeah, fuck them kids. Let them die. You want people to die on the streets? Yeah, fuck those people. Let them die in the streets. I don't give a shit. I want to defund public education. You don't want kids to go and get educated? I don't give a fuck. They're not educated right now. I don't care." The thing is like if you just allow yourself to just go to the extreme and say, "Yeah, bitch, whatever, throw it at me." They don't go at you as hard as they would, knowing that you are going to apologize or you are going to try to make yourself into a good person.
How do you pronounce Chrissy's last name? Let's get that comment up. Hold on.
I don't even know how it's spelled, bro. So it's like Chrissy Teigen. Teigen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah, that's pronounced Teigen.
Teigen.
Everybody says Tegan, but even Chrissy says it's Teigen.
It's Teigen.
Anyways, okay. Back to our weekly jihad. Yes. Okay. Here's the most ridiculous thing that's happened this week. If for someone who's not named Ice Cube, Trump. So President Trump falsely accusing the 75-year-old Buffalo peace activist Martin Gugino of being an Antifa agitator. You have 57 Buffalo Police Department cops resign in protest. And so the full story on that is that the police union in Buffalo actually threw the cops under the bus, saying that if you get disciplined by the police department for any misconduct that takes place during these protests, we're not going to provide you with legal protections. We're not going to give you a lawyer. You're basically on your own. And those 57 cops on the emergency response team were basically like, fuck it, we're resigning, we're leaving. And so that's kind of how that went down. But then the union basically made it look like they were resigning because the two cops who were disciplined for pushing Martin Gugino onto the pavement and him cracking his skull was that they were basically resigning over the discipline of those two cops. So that's the truth on that. But Trump weighing into it based on a OAN report that a journalist from Sputnik ended up delivering. That has been, I think, by far his most egregious tweet to date. But
there's so many, you lose count.
And then you have his press sec, Kayleigh McEnany, sort of running cover for him. And it was, I mean, like, they're making a whole big deal out of something that should not. I mean, like, that's pretty clear cut. I mean, even if this guy, this protester, Martin Gugino, was an Antifa agitator, like, there's no justification for, like, pushing a 75-year-old man and cracking his skull, giving him a concussion. I mean, that can at least, you can at least, like, maybe question why he was there, but, like, still, there's no excuse. There's no excuse. Like, he's going to the Trump and McEnany are just going to the extreme here.
Well, absolutely. But McAnal is just trying to cover for Trump. That's what she's doing. I mean, she's not. I highly doubt that she believes that shit, to be honest. So she's just really, swallowing it and just covering for Trump as much as she can. But into Trump's tune, he's just reading some shit and then thinking about what can be the most outrageous thing that they can do that day and tweet that shit out. And it's a problem. I think if he came out and he tweeted, like after seeing that video, it was really harsh. I'm really glad that they got, the proper, repercussions over it. Nobody would have said anything. A lot of people would have been taken back to it, but he had to go to this extra like 12th step, level and shit and say that the 75-year-old is some weird secret agent who had like little devices for blood to start squeezing out of him and stuff. And people actually start retweeting this stuff and believing it. And it's
his first ratio he's ever gotten too on Twitter, at least in my times of recording all his Twitter content. And it's just all around just so stupid. It's just like, it's so unnecessary. All he does is make people just like question his fitness. Meanwhile, you have Joe Biden basically on the other side, essentially like huddling in his basement because his mental his brain is basically melted.
Both these guys are like almost
they're both in their mid to late 70s, and it's just so crazy how like we always think like, oh, the children of the future, like the next generation is going to take the lead. And it's just like, it's always old people. They just never give up power.
Old white
boomers.
people.
The boomers and the silent generation.
That's terrible. It. Look at what the millennials are doing right now too. The millennials don't know what the fuck they want to do. Gen Z are just like thinking that they need to have a revolution and they can run the country by themselves. And millennials are too busy, apologizing for either being white or apologizing for thinking a joke was funny. It's one or the other. That's what millennials are doing right now. And it's God help us at this point, or Allah help us, please.
Allah help us. Before we get into the Seattle, because we're trying to keep it on, we're trying to keep a good structure here. So speaking of everything crazy that's happening, you did mention obviously the media whining about Trump holding rallies amid a pandemic while cheering on thousands of protesters. Basically, gathering in the streets, tens of thousands of people, essentially combating police brutality, demanding more police accountability, combating racism.
Bro. It's black people can have rights because they don't have any rights right now. They have zero rights.
Zero rights.
Zero rights.
So this letter that was sent by the Trump campaign to CNN telling them to take down a poll in which Biden is leading Trump by like 14 percentage points, threatening legal action against them. I mean, seriously, what the shit is going on over there? Of all the things to knock CNN on, I have never thought that any political campaign would want to sue them for polling data.
It makes zero sense. And
you can criticize the poll. Threatening legal action just makes you look like it makes you
look like a little whiny bitch.
It makes you look like a snowflake.
Exactly. And I think that's what Trump is really. Like he has a very frail ego, and anything that can either hit on it or touch it, he has to comment about it. He has to try to make himself come on top. And it just makes him look
nice.
Very, very
You're probably wondering what you just said. It was come on top.
God, these jokes are in the Quran too, folks. You can get these.
Pick up a Quran today, and then before you read the Quran, say La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. And then you're allowed to read it. Okay, now I really want to get into what I really want to talk about. The Seattle Auto Zone. That's short for Seattle AutoZone. The Seattle Autonomous Zone. So first of all, it's kind of crazy how every time there's a protest, an AutoZone gets burned to the ground. But this is the first time, at least in my years of being alive, that a group of people decided they were just going to make their own country. And they decided to do it in downtown Seattle, of all fucking places. And you got the Washington State Governor Jay Inslee just being like, "Yeah, they're just let's just let them have their little fun, you know." And they, I was reading articles about it. I think there's a publication. It's like My Northwest, and I can't stop laughing at this thing because they come up with the list of demands. And and then like one of the people who's like not reporting on it, but at least observing all of it, is just like saying, yeah, their main point is just to say that they can take care of themselves. Like, what are they talking about? Like, I mean, like, I don't know if that's the craziest thing that happened this year, but that is certainly up there.
No, it has to be. And what I like is that there was a tweet. I don't know how real this tweet is, but there's a tweet that was sent out was saying like alert number 2. All our food has been stolen by the homeless people we invited in. And then there is another TikTok girl saying like what they are, what their demands are. And she has these like really huge boobs and shit. And she's being dragged about having those huge boobs. I think she's just going to feed everybody with everything that she has in those, like, to be honest with you. And that's how they're going to survive. It's just really, it's hilarious because they're going on to like day 3. And there's that article that came out saying like how they want their demands met and they can take care of themselves. And then day 2 is like, we lost all the food because the homeless people stole it. And honestly, you can't write an episode of Arrested Development better than something like that. Like,
that's true, 100%. I think you should actually find out that Antifa girl if she has a mom. That could be your third, third one before the month ends.
That would be the 4th one. It's all in. That's right, Ross. God. I do love e-girls.
Yeah.
Rubino.
Ross
Rubino.
Rubino?
Right. I don't know. I think he might be a Chinese spy and he can access my TikTok because that's all that's there. It's just e-girls.
Yeah. Fuzzy says they're self-appointed police, literally using violence and police brutality to stop taggers or something.
Oh, yeah. There's a video circulating that's allegedly, I don't know. It might be actually that, but you see a confrontation between 2 guys, one of them who's supposedly the police force, another guy who's trying to do graffiti. And the guy's like, okay, you got to stop. And he's not stopping. So the police starts beating the shit out of the guy. It's hilarious. Yeah.
Oh, I haven't seen this one. Oh my God. That is something else. Okay. All in all, though, the level of reporting on this Seattle Autonomous Zone has not really reached the mainstream threshold of like this is a national story. It's mostly been taken up by like conservative platforms. Certainly Fox News has reported on it. I'm sure my publication has reported on it. I've certainly tweeted about it. Right. But the crazy thing is that it's just sort of another rung in the ladder in which it sounds like many people in the media and on the left are simply just covering for Antifa, covering for these radical leftists, and basically making it look like whatever they're doing is okay. Like, remember in 2015, or no, it was early 2016, when the Bundys had that confrontation that they took over a federal building in like the middle of Oregon, and everyone had basically a goddamn meltdown, thinking that they were like
one too.
We'll say that again. Are you talking about the protests in Michigan this year?
Yeah, they had a meltdown over that too. They're like, "Oh my God, look at these people with guns in the state house and shit."
Yeah, no, I mean, like that's a little bit more on par. But I mean, the police department, the East Precinct in Seattle, abandoned their building, and they've taken up the 6-block area, and basically like made it an autonomous zone, and it's like it's getting like a sliver and 1 iota of coverage compared to the Bundys in 2016.
Trump gets more coverage over anything. He would tweet, how tomatoes don't belong on burgers, and literally people on the left are rioting and destroying minority businesses and all this kind of stuff. And then you have Brian Stelter coming out saying the riot lie and all this all these things. And for example, the Chicago alderman, when he was talking with the mayor about all the destruction,
Lori Lightfoot.
Yeah, where did any left publication even tweet about it? Other than
I haven't seen many. And that happened. That happened like the last weekend of May, right?
No, this happened just now. The recording came out just like 2 days ago.
Yeah, I know, but it was a recording from like 2 weekends ago.
Right after the riots. And
I'm trying to remember exactly what was the dispute.
No, I can't remember, but he was talking about how the destruction that was made over it, and then they got into a heated argument. I forget what it was about, but then profanities were starting to be exchanged.
Yeah, gotta look back into that again. I honestly, it's just been so much news, but
I know I don't know how people don't get like so fried about it.
Yeah. Another weird thing about this whole like covering for a lot of these extremists on the left was the city of Atlanta announced that they created a recovery fund for businesses who, quote unquote, were adversely impacted following the peaceful demonstrations in Atlanta. So why would you need to set up a recovery fund if the protests were peaceful? That doesn't make any sense. I mean, so it's like subtle language like that just makes you like question, like, who's actually running the show, and it drives you nuts. All right, let's get into the real fun part of this. J.K. Rowling, she is basically getting canceled for like the third or fourth time for having basically
the same belief.
The same belief about biological sex and how it's real, and basically questioning how like transgenderism has like ruined women. And I don't think much about this particular subject just because like it's kind of niche, and I'm not I'm kind of just observing. So the only thing I'll say about this, and this has been an interesting observation, is that, and this is like a tinfoil hat conspiracy theory I'm about to give you right here.
Let's go.
All right. So I'm thinking that men have infiltrated the transgender movement by transitioning to be women so that they can introduce misogyny in a completely new way, because that's how much they hate women.
Bro, you're about to get fucking canceled. But what I think it is also,
I said it was a conspiracy theory. I'm not saying I believe it. I'm just saying that would be Alex Jonesian level right there.
I know, and you love the guy. I don't know how you're handling him off Twitter.
It's like an ironic love.
No, that's what I'm not saying. You believe
anybody
the shit
who watches
that
this and that doesn't know,
you love him for the memes. You love him for the memes.
I love him for the memes. Anybody who watches this and says, "Oh, this guy loves Alex Jones," and doesn't know a thing about me, they're gonna get me. I'm gonna get canceled right away. Basically, they're like 99% of the things I say could get me canceled. And I'm just saying, I'm really surprised I haven't been canceled yet. But I also have been canceled by Fox News.
List, and you have gay appeal.
Yeah,
both of them.
Yeah, do have that. I have that both. So, but yeah, that was. I mean, she was getting canceled. I put her on the list, and everybody was mad at me for putting her on the list. I'm like, first and foremost, the list was designed to save people from themselves. It wasn't always about bad takes. It's sort of like blossomed into focusing a lot on bad takes, but it has always been about saving people from themselves. And that comes with, J.K. Rowling essentially getting herself canceled again. I think that's a reason to take her phone. She should probably step away. I mean, she admitted in her essay that she had to step away from Twitter because it was so damaging to her mental health. In which case, I'm like,
Right.
yeah, the list works. So
It could, yeah. I mean, that's I think that's a real thing. I think
yeah.
you should let people know that she DM'd you afterwards saying to take her phone for 3 months.
So let's see. Next up, this is someone who's actually vying for number one. Despite Trump's really boneheaded tweet about the Buffalo protester, I actually think Ice Cube's going to be number one this week. It's gonna. I mean, he's strong. He's really strongly favored for number one, given how anti-Semitic he has been in the last few weeks or so. But what's interesting is he's always been like this, and we just didn't know this.
Right. I mean, he's visited and he praised Farhan multiple times. He's even had a lot of anti-Semitic lyrics in his music,
in his rap,
and stuff. And for me anyway, it's my first time noticing this as well. And I did a little bit more research into it, and I saw that he has been hanging out with Farhan for like 10 years. You know, it's like it's a long relationship with him.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes into play of how a lot of prominent Black people hate Jewish people. And they are taught really about how Jews own banks, Jews own this, Jews own that, and they really go off into it. It reminds me of when I was a kid living overseas and in the Arab world, how everything bad that happens is on the Jews. 9/11 because of the Jews. I mean, I have people who live overseas who are saying that the Wuhan virus was implanted. It was implanted by Israel on the on the orders of the Jews in America, so China's economy can tank. Like it's these type of conspiracy theories that go into it. And honestly, I think you can really go into the reasons why a lot of New Yorkers are like New York is one of the biggest anti-Semitic places in the United States.
And we talked about Bill de Blasio last week being like one of the basically being the left's not David Duke, who was the person that you were likening him to. Oh God, it's driving me nuts.
Wasn't I was likening him to somebody?
Some anti-Semite. I can't remember who.
I don't remember, but
that should show you how many anti-Semites there are.
There's a lot, and it transcends a lot of races. That's the funny part. Not a funny, but tragic part.
The weird part about it is that, like, regardless of where we are in like this hierarchy of like oppressed peoples, like Steve King was
that's who it was.
That's Steve King. See how quickly he faded into memory.
Goodbye.
No matter what happens, regardless of who's oppressed the most, it's always the Jews who get like the very short end of the oppression stick. And they're all like, no matter what happens, like there's going to be a way to find there's going to be a way for people to scapegoat Jews. And it's really obviously gross. Anyways, on a lighter note, I think it's time. Earn time.
Go get them.
I'll be right back.
Go do it. I'll answer some of the questions here. I don't have the control like he does, so I'll answer some of your questions. George Wallace. No, yeah, Don. It really was kind of shocking. And when you go into those threads of every anti-Semitic tweet that he posts out, the support he has is insane. And there's not going to be a lot of people who are going to talk about it. They're not going to touch on it because it's Black people, showcasing racism. 100%. They're putting these, and nobody wants to touch that. They won't, because they're cowards. Absolute fucking cowards. Mehdi Hassan's view on what is anti-Semitism. My comment on him, he was commenting on how a prominent lib DM'd him about what racism is. And I just commented on him being an anti-Semitic piece of shit, because that's what he is. And it's funny when you see him try to comment what racism is and all this kind of stuff when he doesn't even touch on his own. And for him to want to talk about anti-Semitism and what is and what isn't anti-Semitism while being a Qatari paid bitch who does nothing but demonize Israel and promotes the killing of Jews, I find that very, very hilarious. And I know a bunch of people who are like Mehdi, 100%, very smart, very clear-headed, all this kind of stuff, but they're in their bones Jew-hating pieces of shit, and that's why I can always
I missed Mehdi's tweet because I'm blocked by him.
Yeah, after you put him on the list, fucking Muslim crime. It's probably
talk about internalized Islamophobia.
Sunni Shia crime right there.
Is he Shia?
I have no idea. I don't know. I don't know if he is or isn't.
Well, he doesn't like me. He doesn't like me, so he's automatically Islamophobe.
Right. No, he just tweeted how a prominent white liberal DM'd him about what is and isn't racism and shit. He didn't even state who said
someone
whatever.
ever DM him about what anti-Semitism is or not?
I hope that would be funny if somebody did. And he called it, and it was a Jew, and he called the Jew white. It'll be hilarious.
Mehdi is just like one of those people who I used to have respect for, and then I learned more about his views, and I'm like, well, that doesn't sound right. So, over time, I lost a lot of respect for him based on how he seemed to completely only focus on anti-Semitism coming from the right and never thinking about the anti-Semites within his own camp and, basically him. So
it's very hard for a racist to condemn himself. Like you don't see that happening a lot.
Like I'm married to a Jew now, but like, look, when I was younger, just like you, there was like, I grew up in an environment where there was a lot of animus towards Jews, and that was in West Hartford, Connecticut, and Lahore, Pakistan, and people by and large seem to have very strong negative opinions about Jews, and I believed them for a number of years until I essentially met my now wife. But basically, once you like meet people who are part of a particular group that you say had any animosity towards, a lot of those preconceived notions tend to wither away. And and a lot, like the same thing happens when people meet me for the first time and, they had very strong opinions or animus towards Muslims. It's honestly, a lot of it came out of ignorance and not out of me being well informed on this stuff. And obviously I don't speak on it much, but like, it's obviously a period of my life when I was in high school and there was just a lot of anger and I wasn't informed about things of the world. And so do I regret having animus towards Jews during my formative years? Absolutely. And I think it's important to never let people, I think it's obviously so important for people to just, be educated about the plight that Jews go through. And it's just, it's luckily Ernie, he's technically Jewish. He's a Jewish boy.
Well, we saw him in his what is it called, a yarmulke?
Oh yeah, he was in a kippah. He's in a yarmulke. Yeah. So, So, anyways, this is there are a couple of other things that you mentioned. Matt Iglesias earlier. I know that was kind of part of the part we were talking about red pilling. And how campus culture and leftist takeovers are happening in the real world with the New York Times. But there's one other thing that I didn't fully understand. There's this Yale student who is basically people are trying to get her expelled or something. Like what's going on there?
Right. There was an account that tweeted out how they want to get rid of that person for a post that she had when she was, I think, like 14 or 16 or something like that.
Jeez.
And they wanted to say, like, yes, we want to cancel these people. We want to get them out before they become doctors, lawyers, and all this kind of stuff. And it showcases their logic and their understanding of what it is to be human. When, like you were saying yourself, when you are talking to people, these different people that you have these animosities towards and stuff, you are able to understand them better, see their plight, see what they are, and see know that your preconceived notions of them are wrong. And I think what happening right now with the Black Lives Matter movement, as it is right now, in sort of how it's allowing for change, especially within the Republican Party, is a good thing. It's allowing people to start listening to what they have to say and stuff. And it's better to come to a point of understanding than it is to come to a point of saying that what you're saying is wrong. You have all the rights in the world, like every other person and everything, while discounting, what it is that they're going through. But you want to understand it. You want to see what it is that they're going through, so you can better help these people also understand how we can make the life for them better. And it's not us against you. It's us trying to help each other out and push each other to excel in a better way.
This is the only way I can keep Earn in my lap, is getting them salt licks. I don't know why I didn't think of that sooner.
It's because you're Pakistani and you eat with your hands, especially.
Yeah. So I guess we'll allow this time to answer Habibi questions. Habibis, come through. What up?
No, there was Kate Hyde. She was, I forget, up in it. She was talking about how she didn't even know how Yamchi was pronounced. I think she says she pronounces it the same way I do, which
Yamchi?
is the correct way. Yamchi. Her name is Yamchi. That's what
Fuzzy
it is.
ass has Earn had his evening snack. He probably needs to get another snack. He's having it. Yeah. He's about to eat my whole ass right now. He's about to learn after his Uncle Jay.
That's
Uncle
it
Mujahed.
right there.
Mujahed Mamu.
Mujahed Mamu.
Oh, man. All right. Let's keep it going. Let's see. How did Meyer? Wow, I said Meyer. Matt Blakely says, "How did Meyer?" I guess everyone should drink after that. Okay, because that's part of the Habibi Power Hour stuff. How did Mayor Fry possibly think it was a good idea to walk into that crowd? Okay, so Jacob Fry, the mayor of Minneapolis, decided on Sunday or sometime during the past weekend to walk into the crowd and engage with Black Lives Matter and a number of other protesters. And he wouldn't agree to abolish the police, in which the protester, or the leading protester with the microphone, basically said, "Get the fuck out of here." And essentially he had like this really long ass walk of shame. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did. I couldn't stop laughing, to be honest. And not only to that, he fake cried at George Floyd's funeral as well. Yeah. Like, not only did he walk into that crowd and was completely obliterated, and it showcased, like, he is the stereotypical white liberal, white guilt piece of shit. Yeah. You know what I mean? Trying to be the white savior in all of this as well. So it's like all you have to do is really just sit back and hear what they have to say. Don't do nothing. Like, that's the easiest thing, is you don't have to do jack fucking shit. Don't go up there to the guy's fucking coffin and start crying like he was your mother. Like, that was
that was just sick. such a soy boy move.
Right.
Such a soy move. Yeah. Bean dude asked, how the lockdown going for you both? Easing up. I guess it's going okay. My pops moved out in the area a couple weeks ago. He started a new job out here. That's Baba Hashmi. Yeah,
Mabruk, Baba Hashmi.
So saw him this past weekend. Went golfing with me. It was me, my brother, and him, and it was nice socially distanced golfing.
Right. I'm going to my first restaurant this weekend taking my girlfriend out to a birthday dinner.
Hell yeah.
And it's going to be the first time we've been to a restaurant since this whole thing happened. I mean, I've been going to work and back, going to the office and all that.
But you just haven't been able to go to a restaurant.
Exactly. All takeout. That's it. I mean, the last thing we did outside was we went and got chicken sandwiches and just sat in the car in a parking lot somewhere. That's it.
Yeah. Cox BB asked, why Whalers, Canes over Bruins? First of all, it's just Whalers. I don't like Carolina at all. I'm not a Carolina Hurricanes fan. Ever since because I grew up in Hartford, Connecticut, West Hartford to be exact. And the first sporting event I've ever been to was a Whalers game in '92 when I turned 5, and I think it was a preseason game. That being said, when they left Hartford in 1997 to become the Carolina Hurricanes, I could never love again. So I never really rooted for a hockey team afterwards. I do, since I've moved to DC, I do have slight preference to the Capitals. I do have a little preference to the Bruins. But like, if you were to ask me if I'm like a diehard fan of any team, it's Whalers all day. And like, there'll never be another team that I like. Despite the fact that I like pretty much every other Boston team. So that's why it's still Whalers. Faye asks, or is it Fail? Fail. Jay has a girlfriend. Does Bruce's mom know this?
Bruce's mom knows what she is.
Fuzzy asks, what's my handicap? Am I a scratch golfer? You know, I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't actually know what my handicap is. I play so seldomly. I don't actually know what my handicap is. And every time I do play, it's usually like last weekend was 9 holes on a par 3 course. Like every single hole was a par 3. So like I'm not gonna count that. Like I did have like a birdie, which was nice, but like I'm not. Let's be real. I am a highly inconsistent golfer, and I will. I have there's like flashes in which I'm actually semi decent, but I'm very much an inconsistent golfer. We only got like a minute and a half left. Mitch Midnight asks, what was life like growing up in Pakistan? You know, both of us have had interesting experiences growing up abroad, because I was only in Pakistan for 6 years. But Jay, you're in UAE for how long?
18, 22 years, something like that. It's somewhere around there. I moved out of here when I was 10, from Oklahoma straight to the UAE and Lebanon. So it's mainly Arab places. And that was a lot of fun. I mean, I grew up eating a lot of Pakistani Indian foods and going to Friday prayers so they can let me know that Jews are evil and we have to kill them all.
I mean, yeah, when I hear that stuff, and if I ever hear anything political like that at Juma prayer now, I just walk out. And like, actually, I haven't been to a Juma prayer in so long because a lot of the mosques imams are they're too extreme and too political for me. So for me, real quick, Pakistan was a pretty wild experience for me because I moved there when I was 8 years old. And I lived there until I was 14, and it was 9/11. And basically the Taliban and Al-Qaeda put a bounty on all American heads in Afghanistan, Pakistan. So we had to get the hell out of there as soon as 9/11 happened.
Wow.
But I was bullied a lot there, probably because I was so white.
Right.
I wish I had a beard back then, so I probably wouldn't have been bullied. But you know, I'm good with pretty much everyone who still I talk with a lot of people I know from there, and the people who were really mean to me are friends with me now. And I will say, if I didn't have that experience, I probably couldn't do what I do now, because I think I have at least a little bit of, I have a pretty self-deprecating sense of humor and thick skin.
Right.
and I could take a hit. So anyways, Habibis, that's been 69 minutes. Nice. And
Nice.
Thank you for joining our Habibi Power Hour. I need to end this before 10 more seconds. So Habibis, you've been great. Love y'all. This will be up on the podcast soon. Marhaban. Masalama.
Ma salama, Habibi.